Hi, James here, and welcome to Podaholics and the James Cast. This is a conversation with Glenn Power, POWERWORKS Automotive. Yeah, you know, POWERWORKS, the podcast. But this is not a POWERWORKS podcast. This is Glenn Power reviewing the Tesla Model 3. I know, you're scratching your head and you're going, haven't we already heard a lot about Teslas and the Model 3 and you know, we have. But when is the last time you heard a master mechanic and one you know, that's Glenn, talk about the vehicle? Talk about his thoughts of the build quality. Talk about his thoughts of getting under the hood. And you still do need to get under the hood of these things, by the way. When did you hear that review? It's short, it's sweet, it's to the point, and it is POWERWORKS. Talking the Tesla with Glenn Power. Here we go.
Hey James, so initial sort of actual genuine hands-on broken knuckles opinion and review of the Model 3 is it says made in Mexico and everything, and it feels like it when you work on it. They've kind of stumbled across the handling because they've gone independent suspension, which has been around certainly in European cars for probably 80 years. And because the centre of gravity is so low with the battery packs and everything, then, you know, actually doesn't handle too bad. Standard, this one handles really well now with the track upgrades on it, but I wouldn't want to drive it around all day on the road, to be fair. Certainly not through a community with speed bumps, but that's another story. Panel gaps all over the place. Rear subframe totally off centre to the chassis. Left and right is an obvious, clearly visible difference. And that's adjusted out through suspension and steering geometry, but some things are a little bit close to their limit, shall we say. Fantastic seats to look at. Fantastic operating interface, I suppose you'd call it, with the screen. Really, really good. Works really well. Within 10 minutes, you're aware of all the functions. Probably the biggest drawback of the operating screen is the fact that, and it may be, but it may not be connected to just anybody. You might have to be registered as the owner, but it has no kind of like Alexa mode, so you're not sort of be able to sat there and say AC a little bit warmer, a little bit colder, turn the fan down a bit, you know, set the horn to the theme tune from Blazing Saddles or whatever. So there's none of that I can find. The rest of it very intuitive. Now the car is not aging well. The interior is very, very plain apart from the bright white seats and the fantastic screen. The screen's on a weird sort of stand, which kind of makes it look like an afterthought, whereas we all know it wasn't, because the car was built around it. It's just, I think it's just the whole made in Mexico thing. Yeah, they made some of the old VWs, but they were from the 60s. This thing's from like the 21st century. And I think there's a bit of there's obviously a cost time quality triangle with a huge focus on cost here. Time's certainly no good because the waiting times for them are ridiculous. Quality's not great. They've stumbled upon the handling. The screen, which is the best bit of the interior, actually, when you break it down, doesn't sit well on the dashboard. But talk about throw you back in your seat. Driven some fantastic cars, lucky enough to go on some great launches of great new cars, but nothing gives you the same, certainly up to 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, not to 60, nothing gives you that same instant feel of torque. There's not much they can do. It'd be great to see them figure gearboxes out with an electric motor, or some kind of gear change feel. That'd be nice, because it's a little bit weird. It's almost like driving a car with a really good CVT gearbox in it, because there's no gear shift. But because there's no engine screaming, it doesn't really matter. It's just relentless. The regen on the lift off of the throttle is difficult to maneuver around town. That's something I haven't touched in the settings. I think you can back it off a little bit, but this is on full, I think, and it's kind of like driving a BMW, one of the M Sport with the SMG gearboxes, where you've really got to give it some to get it to move over the threshold and to get the clutch to engage. It's very weird, but it's obviously all part of the tech. It's very good to work on, to be fair. Obviously, the one I've worked on now is the one I've worked on. It's new, so everything was nice and free and relatively straightforward to get to. I think there will be lots and lots of maintenance work on these things. The 7-year service interval thing is a load of old rubbish looking at them. There's oil coolers everywhere. There's a lot of suspension components on there. And they're going to find that these motors and cooling systems are going to need servicing a lot more regular than they expect. I think we've been there before. Maintenance-free batteries, maintenance-free timing chains, maintenance-free gearboxes. They all end up on a maintenance interval because it doesn't quite work that way. The heat here will be interesting to see how that affects it. And to be honest, it's not far removed from a normal car, as we would dub a normal car at least. I do feel sorry for anyone that just drives a Tesla in 10 years' time, if they're still doing these electric cars, and that's the only ever car they drive. They learn in one and they pass the test in one, and then they drive one as an owner of one. I feel sorry for them never having the thrill of a gear change or an engine starting up, or figuring out a misfire or dumping oil all over your parents' drive and all that stuff. But times are changing. Just waiting here patiently, happy to work on Teslas and all the other EVs until the hydrogens come out. And then at that point, I think we're really at the future. But anyway, this is like 7 minutes long. Don't want to bore you too much, but we're good to go on EVs at POWERWORKS now. And booking myself and DJ on the relevant training courses back in the UK. So when we both go back, we'll get on the training courses at the same time and get some accreditation for it. It's here, we can't ignore it. And to be fair, anyone that doesn't necessarily love cars but just likes the idea of a car or just the thrill of speed, I can totally see why they'd be nothing but enamoured with any Tesla. And like I say, this is the Model 3. It's a dual motor and it's a beast, but still only the Model 3. It's not like we're talking about the Roadster or the Model S or X or whatever. This is their sort of entry-level one, and fantastic.
Well, there we go. Glenn Power reviews the Tesla Model 3. Pretty good. Pretty cool. What do you think? You getting on the Tesla bandwagon? You don't own one yet, but you're going to get one now? You're going to hold out for hydrogen? I'd love to know your thoughts. At Glenn That Car Guy, if you want to reach out to Glenn, you know how to get me at the Jamescast. And of course, you want to drop us an email, james@thejamescast.com. That's simple. Thank you very much for listening. Glad to hang out with you. Looking forward to doing it again. Keep on podcasting. So long for now.